She was an artist reigning in her season. There was a contract and she herself, Cynthia, admitted that she didn't read it properly. It really just made me think about the issue of like knowing your worth and guarding your worth as well. Because there's one thing knowing that you're worth millions, but if you enter into a contract that doesn't let you touch it, if Mady's saying it, your own twin brother is saying it, Cynthia is saying it, there has to be some element of truth. Hi guys, welcome to Mochunkstv and welcome to another installment of Chit Chat with Mo. So I really wanted to come on here and discuss this whole thing about Cynthia Morgan. I've been seeing it trending all over Twitter and Instagram, and I've just been like really just following it and trying to just gather up all the facts and stuff. So Cynthia Morgan is a Nigerian artist, and she was an artist reigning in her season, came out around the same time as Pataran King and Burna Boy, had the same kind of flair, the whole dance hall, speaking patois in their music. I'm just trying to, this hair keeps like, the way I had to raise up my tripod today, I feel like my hair's grown in this quarantine season. It's just looking more like full, and I haven't seen this fullness for a long time in my hair, so I'm loving it right now. But anyway, back to Cynthia. So she came out on the scene around the same time and had like hit singles. If I'm honest, I didn't really know of her at the time, but doing my research, she was doing really, really well. Loads of people, Nigerians, loved her, and she was signed to Jude Okoye's record label. The name of his label is Northside Music Limited, and that's the same record label that used to handle P Square. Of course, we know that P Square, they split for a while now, and it was quite shocking for everybody that, they're not just siblings, they're twins, and they've been doing P Square for a long time, and then for them to kind of just, everyone moved on and accepted it. So he was managing other artists, including Cynthia. What we find out that has happened from this interview is that she was basically stripped of everything when she left the label. There hasn't been much detail or explicit detail about what's actually happened behind the scenes to cause her to walk away. But what we do know is that when she did walk away, she lost all the royalties to her songs. She lost access to her Vivo, and she couldn't even use her stage name, which is actually her actual name. We see that things haven't been the same for her since she left the label. She actually admitted to going through mental health issues such as depression. You can see that just her whole face, like she doesn't seem as healthy and happy as she was before. Of course, she could have just been having a lazy night, but it was kind of like something's not, she's not the same Cynthia, the glam, loud Cynthia that we used to see before. She had some beef with Davido, and that was as a result of Davido. There was a bit of a back and forth between them because she won an award, and Davido was saying, nah, Lil Kesh should have won the award, and she went on socials and started like mocking Davido and his voice. And Davido's actually come out, in spite of that little tiff that they had, even though he started it, he said that he has a song for her, that he wants them to collaborate on something, and that when she's ready, she should reach out to him. Now, everyone's kind of been speculating from that Burna Boy, she was quite close with him, as far as we know anyway, because he was in one of her music videos. She was quite close to him, that why has Burna Boy not reached out? But that's really not for anybody to decide. I think Davido is just that kind of person that he genuinely likes to help people. Like recently, he sent 1 million to somebody who drew or did like a faux picture of him and Wizkid standing together, and he sent 1 million to their family just for that. And he's that kind of person, like a philanthropist. He likes to do good for people because he believes that, he's blessed to be a blessing. So he's reached out to Cynthia now, and since the live as well, there's been like a GoFundMe that's come out to help Cynthia. Her account details are online as well if you want to send her something just to kind of support her in this season especially. Now there's a call for her to come back into the music scene, and I've watched different opinions on this. Some people are of the opinion that no, she should stay put and get her mental health issues, get herself together before she tries to start making music, that her mental health and her well-being is more important than making music. While some people are of the school of thought that this is the perfect time for her to jump back in and make a comeback. Now, of course, there's been loads of accusations towards one man, Judo Koye. And not just Cynthia, but also somebody who was on his label, Mady, Mr. Mady. I see my love for you like Jackie Chan. Whatcha? Those of you that know the song I'm trying to sing here, you know the one. When Mr. Mady has come out as well and supported Cynthia quite publicly and said, she ain't lying, like we went through the same thing. When he left the label as well, there was heat that was greedy, and he came out and debunked that and said no, like they were living in like boys' quarters. And how can I describe that to people that might be overseas? So boys' quarters is like you might have the main building and then you have like the side building where, like, for some people, I'm not sure how everybody does it, but like maybe domestic staff like the gate man would stay there. I think house ups normally stay in the house. Sometimes you rent out the boys' quarters as well. It's kind of like an extra thing on the side that you would have, and like anyone can stay there really. So he was saying that he was living there and he used to like live in like very terrible conditions, using like his clothes as like covers, and so many things were going on, and he was making hits at the time. So it wasn't as glam as everybody, thought it was. Now there's so many layers to this, because I think the first thing that came to mind is that, okay, there was a contract and she herself, Cynthia, admitted that she didn't read it properly. And in those instances, you actually have little you can fight with. Sometimes, like, with the whole Megan Thee Stallion thing, she managed to get out of her contractual agreement. Sometimes, like, that's not to say because of a contract, but most of the time, a contract is legally binding. And as much as we can complain and say, because I feel, sometimes you're bound by a contract. And if it says that and you signed it, it really just made me think about the issue of, like, knowing your worth and guarding your worth as well. Because there's one thing knowing that you're worth millions, but if you enter into a contract that doesn't let you touch it, or enter into a contract that doesn't let you have freedom to do what you want to do and express yourself as an artist, then you're kind of done for. I always see this quote going around where it says, people do know your worth, but they're hoping you don't. So they're hoping you're dumb enough, or not aware enough, or not assertive enough to ask for your worth, to guard your worth, to fight for your worth, because sometimes you will get pushback from people. And this is something I've personally had to deal with, like, all my life, because I do have a very kind nature. That's just me naturally. I like to give people, I like to serve people, I like to help people. And sometimes in the world that we live in, when people see that you have that kind of nature, that kind of open nature, that kind of naive nature, I would say sometimes, like I can be and used to be very naive, they kind of prey on that and they're happy by that, because they can put so many more clauses in that you miss. And again, because of who you are, like when I was listening to the live, she was saying that she didn't want to fight it at the time. She just wanted to walk away quietly. It's like, why would you lose so much and not say anything? And I believe I came across an interview of hers like a year ago, and that's the only one that I can say, okay, she kind of spoke out about what happened. But really and truly, there wasn't much of a fight from her side, which, might be understandable in terms of, and I'm not saying, it's because she's got a kind nature, because of course people have come out and said things like, it was actually her pride and her bad attitude that made her lose out. And of course we saw that she kind of did that whole thing with the video. So I'm not saying it's because she's a saint or whatever, but some people don't know their rights. Some people don't know when to fight. Some people don't know when to let go. And other people kind of prey on that. So my question to you guys is, when things like this happen, who is to blame? Is it the artist for not reading into their contract and the contractual agreement properly and not knowing their worth to ask for better? Or is it the managers that prey on the ignorance of such artists and, you know, give them the worst possible deal. And people have been asking, okay, well, is it better for an artist to go independent? There's two ways about it, really, because for an independent artist, that means they have to invest in themselves. Because ultimately, what a label is an investor. You have the talent, we have the money. We'll pay for your outfits, we'll pay for your music video, we'll pay for your studio sessions. You do have to give it back, but we're hoping that through our investment you're going to make more. It depends on what kind of contract you have, but I do believe it's mainly they put the first investment, they get that back plus more. So from your profit, they now get a percentage. So that's not and them bumping them or fraud or whatever, just the level of sometimes the percentage that they take and, you know, how much they expect you to give back and when they expect you to give it back as well. You know, some people might jump at the opportunity to be managed by someone. I would love to be managed by someone because it means I would do less of the thinking and more of just the talent. And again, this is just a word to creatives as well. You know, you can't just be the talent, you have to have your brain on, especially in this world where it's so fast paced now. Everything happens so quickly, or you know, you've already signed something, and it's like people prey on that. People prey on the fact that you are just a talent. Of course, we can hope that the people that we are managed by have our best interests at heart, but my biggest thing is that you yourself need to know your worth. You need to guard your worth. You need to have your own best interests at heart, in a sense of you're not too trusting about what you're offered, and you don't take what you're offered so quickly. You question it, you analyze it. And this is not to say be paranoid. I think generally don't just take what you're offered. Sometimes counter it, sometimes really analyze and ask questions. What does this really mean? Because I believe that's what would have saved Cynthia in this situation. Now, Judo Koye has come and, you know, cancelled everything that everyone said. Said, nah, Peter is still just bitter from the fact that we split. Mehdi, he spent hundreds of millions of dollars on him, and apparently even Cynthia, she owes $40 million. He said this all on a live with Tunde Ednot, who's quite popular and has a lot of like dilemmas on his page. He said he will release the contract, and actually that Cynthia's been free from 2017. But I don't actually think anybody was debating whether she was free or not. I think it was kind of like everyone felt sorry for her with how much she lost from walking away and the fact that she wasn't able to rebuild. Now, there is also this thing of, if Mehdi's saying it, your own twin brother is saying it, Cynthia is saying it, there has to be some element of truth. And it's like, what is the truth? Like, who is telling the truth, who's telling a lie? And of course, three people can be bitter and run the same narrative, but also it's like these things don't just come from anywhere. There's also the claim that she can't use her name because it was somehow attached to the label as a stage name, so she's changed her name to Madrina. Now this one is a bit higgy because both Judo Koye and her are saying that she changed the name for personal reasons. And Jude also said they don't own the name. There's no way they can own a name, that she's allowed to use her name. Whereas some people have run with the narrative that they kind of held her name to hostage. There's always three sides of every story between two or three people. There's, you know, how you see it, how they see it, and then the truth. Because I think everybody always tries to paint themselves as a saint. Because that's just who we are as human beings. Sometimes we don't like to take accountability for the part we played. We always try to make the other person or exaggerate what they did to make them seem like they were the ones in the wrong. I feel like perhaps there was some artist mismanagement, but there was also some lack of competence on the artist's part, in a sense of reading between the lines and seeing, what does this actually mean? Who am I going into business with? Do they have my best interests at heart? But you guys, what do you think? Do you think this is a Judo Koye thing? Do you think he knew exactly what he was doing and he was just nasty, point blank period towards her? Do you feel like Cynthia could have read the contract a lot better, and in so doing protected herself and avoided all of this? Do you feel like she should come back, or she should just focus on her mental health and get her life back together as a person before she jumps into being an artist again? You guys let me know in the comment section down below. And that's all I really have for you guys about this topic. Make sure that if you liked it, do share with your friends, comment down below the things I spoke about, and subscribe to this channel for more. Until next time guys, peace and love, peace and chunks.